The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
Igbo people of Biafra, unity and faith, peace and progress.
With another people of different culture, idea and heritage, bias and oppressive. Oh, I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wori, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Eti, Uyu, Olu, Aba, Owori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
From now till forever, let the whole wide world know.
The Indigenous People of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The Indigenous People of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination. The Indigenous People Biafra movement. It's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.
Let the tears of our mothers who lost their children be heard. Let the blood of our
Mazi Nyande Kanu, leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra. He says, "My love, passion and agitation for freedom for the people of Biafra and the other African nations must be achieved. We shall be free from this mental and colonial enslavement. They will kill us, they will arrest us, they will intimidate us, but in the end, we shall win. My people shall be free, and Biafra shall come." The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too.
of different culture, Ideal heritage, bias and oppressive.
The Motivators Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
Igbo people of Biafra, unity and faith, peace and progress.
With another people of different culture, Ideal heritage, bias and oppressive. Oh, I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wori, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Eti, Uyu, Olu, Aba, Awori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
From now till forever, let the whole wide world know.
The indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The indigenous people of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination. The indigenous people Biafra movement, it's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.
Let the tears of our mothers who lost their children be heard. Let the blood of our
Mazi Nyante Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. He says, "My love, passion and agitation for freedom for the people of Biafra and the other African nations must be achieved. We shall be free from this mental and colonial enslavement. They will kill us, they will arrest us, they will intimidate us, but in the end, we shall win. My people shall be free, and Biafra shall come." The Motivators Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
We are also on Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us there too.
We're another people of different culture. Ideal heritage bias and oppressive.
The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
Igbo people of BIAFRA, unity and faith, peace and progress.
We're another people of different culture, ideal heritage bias and oppressive. I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wori, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Eti, Uyu, Olu, Aba, Owori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
From now till forever, let the whole wide world know.
The indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The indigenous people of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination. The indigenous people Biafra movement, it's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.
Let the tears of our mothers who lost their children be heard. Let the blood of our
Mazi Nyante Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. He says, "My love, passion and agitation for freedom for the people of Biafra and the other African nations must be achieved. We shall be free from this mental and colonial enslavement. They will kill us, they will arrest us, they will intimidate us, but in the end, we shall win. My people shall be free, and Biafra shall come." The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment.
There was a nation living in peace and unity. Yeah. There are people with
We are also
love and
on
harmony.
Instagram and
There's no
TikTok.
greatness rise up to its
Follow us
purity.
there too.
We're another people of different culture. Our dear heritage bias and oppressive. We need
The Motivator Show.
freedom. We need peace. We choose freedom.
The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity. Yeah.
Igbo people of Biafra, unity and faith, peace and progress.
We're another people of different culture. Our dear heritage bias and oppressive. Oh, I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wori, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Eti, Uyu, Olu, Aba, Owori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
Speak from now till forever. Let the whole wide world know.
The Indigenous People of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The Indigenous People of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination. The Indigenous People Biafra movement. It's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.
Let the tears of our mothers who lost their children be heard. Let the blood of our
Mazi Nyante Kanu, leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra. He says, "My love, passion and agitation for freedom for the people of Biafra and the other African nations must be achieved. We shall be free from this mental and colonial enslavement. They will kill us, they will arrest us, they will intimidate us, but in the end, we shall win. My people shall be free, and Biafra shall come." The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment.
There was a nation living in peace and unity. Hey, there are people with
We are
love
also
and
on
harmony.
Instagram and
It's so great,
TikTok.
let's rise up to it
Follow us
unity.
there too.
We're another people of different culture, a dear heritage, bias and oppressive. We need
The Motivator Show,
freedom. We need peace. We choose freedom.
the internet's most inspirational podcast. And that you've got to believe. It's the Motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action. And where success, is ours for the taking. How are you feeling, people? How are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling fantastic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The Motivator here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The internet's most inspired podcast. Oh yeah, I'm feeling good. And I hope you're feeling well, my people. I hope you're feeling well. This is going to be a fantastic transmission today. Think carefully. Remember, positive thoughts. Remember, the world is what we make it, what we design, what we envisage, what we want it to be. Trust me, that is true. And if in doubt, work with others. Yeah? If in doubt, work with others. There you go. Now, I'm going to go right into the show today. It's going to be a really packed occasion. And of course, we're going to have a number of truly inspired guests today. But without further ado, I'm going to go right into a few quick announcements. Announcement, of course, to note the inspired guests I've had already on this show this year. And it's truly been a truly rewarding year. A year in which I've got to say, there is no reason to be down. There's no reason to feel depressed. There's no reason to feel disempowered when you're aware that the community has so many inspired persons whom you can use as your benchmark to do great actions, great things, if you like. Yeah? No reason to be down. So, I would first of all give praise and respect, of course, to those wonderful people we had on our show last Saturday. What is it? Well, Lowway Books, yeah? Multi-continental bookseller based in Kenya with offices and outlets here in London. A demonstration that if Africa is to grow, is to expand, is to thrive, we've got to have those relationships between Africa and here in Europe, the States, in both continents. Yeah, trade is the way to wealth. I'll say it again, trade is the way to wealth. Okay. Yep, we've got to be assertive. We've got to ensure that we are part of that wealth creation classes. Yeah. Enough respect to you. Lowway Books. Long may you continue your outstanding work. A quick thumbs up also, of course, to Joan Green, that inspired teacher, how to enable your child to pass those 11 plus exams, or indeed to prepare to enter secondary school or senior school, if you like, in some places. An important milestone in anyone's life, that transition from the truly junior school to, in other places, called high school or senior school, secondary school, by whatever name you locally describe them. An important milestone. It's more important for us to ensure that our children succeed through those milestones without hesitation or a feeling of uncertainty. It's important for us as guardians, as parents, to ensure we help them to navigate through those steps. And if you haven't brought Joan's Green Book, let me recommend How to Pass 11 Plus. I know it says 11 plus, but it actually means transition from junior to high or secondary school. That's what it means. An important time in anyone's life. Crucial time, crucial time. Well done, Joan, and well done, Tony, of course. I want to give a quick moment, of course, to recognize that not only are these podcasts intended to be inspirational, they're intended to encourage you not to simply listen, but also to act, to see these transmissions as a source of strength so you can go from strength to strength, strong to strong, if you like, okay? Because what now follows is us together taking responsibility for our health and well-being. It is a crucial subject. Many of you will be aware that I'm also an elected official. So I see the official figures, even if I didn't want to. And those official figures about our health and well-being make often for uncomfortable reading. Okay? Many of the conditions that pervade our communities are avoidable through thinking about what you eat and what you do. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, you build up a level of robustness, internal physiological robustness. In other words, you raise your immune response. Yeah, that's what you do. In doing so, all the diseases, the viruses, those failing bodies that pervade our communities would not occur to the level, to the extent that they're currently occurring in far too many members within our community. Therefore, it's incumbent upon me to spend just a few minutes on our lifestyle messages. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. I do this every Saturday. It is true. But they are so incredibly important. I cannot understate their importance to you, to us, to the family, to our network, to the wider community. They are absolutely crucial for you. So I ask you to bear with me for a few minutes just to absorb and take in these messages. If it's not for you, if you're fit and health-free with no condition, that's fine. But some of these words you might share with someone else in your immediate family, someone you love, someone you care for or respect, or someone to whom you have a friendship with, or is part of a network, or indeed wider network. You might share a few words with that person. And you may well make a significant contribution to promoting good health and well-being in our communities. So just bear with me. I want you to listen just for a few minutes. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. But the evidence suggests in abundance that we have saved lives, or transformed lives. But saving lives is our business. So I'll go straight into this. I want to give these messages to you. There we go. Let's open this up for you. There we go. There we go. Lifestyle messages. And the first of those messages is very, very straightforward. Honestly, very straightforward. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you ingest each day. Yeah, sugar and salt. Oh yeah. And those of you, this is your first time, pay attention. Within our cuisines, there's an abundance of sugar and salt. Wherever you might be, in the Caribbean, in the motherland and continent of Africa, in the Americas, or here in Europe, there's an abundance of sugar and salt. Mm-hmm. The challenge, of course, is that abundance means that we overwhelm our bodies with sugar and salt, with the inevitable consequences. Public health diseases suggest that within our communities, we are well overrepresented as a proportion of our population number of those who are succumb to diabetes. And I say it with emphasis, diabetes, which is where the body is not unable to create enough insulin, which is the chemicals, the hormones designed to break down the sugar into its component parts so our bodies can utilize. And I'm assuring you, either someone in your immediate family or extended family has that condition, diabetes. In many communities across the Caribbean and here in London, in Britain, the levels of diabetes should be a public emergency. I say again, should be a public emergency. Every other family have a person with diabetes as a condition that they are managing. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you consume each day. I personally do not buy sugar from the grocery store. I have no need for it. It has taken a few years to no longer feel the urge to have sugar, although I do react when I see sugar, but I developed a sweet tooth as a child. That's a problem. Allowing children to gorge themselves on sugar. That's the problem. And they take that habit into adulthood. And your bodies are no longer as efficient as it was when you were a child. And therein lies the consequences. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you consume each day. I equally ask you to consider the amount of salt you consume each day. Again, one of those ingredients added to our food, supposedly for enhancement to the flavors. That is purely a myth. I assure you, it is a myth. Often, most of us, the majority of you, are already consuming sufficient salt as part of your general diet. Particularly you're eating and consuming processed food. There's abundance of salt in those foods. The problem for us, of course, is the impact of salt over an extended period of time. And the relationship between salt and the hardening of our arteries, and the consequence, the additional pressure placed upon our heart, having to pump harder through our arteries and veins. Consequently, the raising of our blood pressure or hypertension. It's just like diabetes pervades our communities to the extent that they are at frightening levels. Consequently, there are tens of millions of our people, particularly of African heritage and Asian heritage most certainly, who are living with hypertension or high blood pressure. And we get on to the obvious consequences of excessive sugar and salt in our diet in a few moments' time. But I simply ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. Consider gradually reducing the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. It will do you well. I equally ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrates that you consume each day. And this is one of those base ingredients in our diet which we take for granted. Primarily from wheat-based products, but of course some root vegetables as well. On the screen you see example. You see the wheat in the green, you see the pastas, and of course you see the potatoes and yams. Yes, I get it, I hear you, my people. Yes, there's the overconsumption which is the problem, okay? But our bodies assume as we're over-consuming, we're gorging on carbohydrate, that you want the body to store it for a rainy day, which never comes. So the inevitable impact, physical impact, is obvious on our bodies. So I'll get on to that in a few moments. But you should consider, it's the quantum, that's what you should consider. How much the quantum per sitting is what you should consider. I'm told by the experts, we should eat no more than a fistful of food per sitting. Yep, a fistful of food per sitting. And I know for some people that will be somewhat challenging. I get it. Changing your lifestyle, changing the habit of a lifetime is challenging. But in order to promote good health and well-being, it is without doubt necessary for all of us, me included, to modify some of our nutritional and culinary habits. Here is another example on screen. This time it's raw meat, deliberately raw meat, not cooked, raw meat. And you can see the meat. The meat is red. But the feature which I want to focus on, we need to focus on, is what's in white. An integral part of the meat, and that is the fat. Oh yeah, this is what it looks like when it's cold, when it's in its rawest form. Yeah, this is fat. Fat, of course, we need some of it, without a shadow of a doubt. But the overconsumption, the gorging of fat each day, has a direct detrimental impact on our overall health and well-being. But our bodies assume to gorge this much on fat, the assumption that you are gorging because you're anticipating famine. Yeah? And a famine that never arrives. So I simply ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day. Yeah, and fat can come in different forms, but this form, particularly here in the meat, is absolutely true. And if we get onto the dairy products, which are simply bovine fat, in other words, cow's fat, the impact on our bodies, of course, is apparent. So let's start with the insides of our bodies. Here you have an example of an artery, which is partially blocked. Again, partially blocked with sugar and salt, the carbohydrates, the fats, and other ingredients that accumulate in our arteries and veins. And you can see the red corpuscles, which is what carrying the air from our lungs to the rest of our bodies. Yeah, this partially blocked artery is dangerous. Yeah, this is the cause of those raising of our blood pressure, because the heart has to pump with even greater vigor. And you can imagine, if you're constantly doing this every day, the potential impact it can have on your bodies. This is the consequence of our lifestyle, the overconsumption of fat, okay, which is a big problem in the community. And the last ingredient I want to give light to is, of course, starch. Starch, is one of those ingredients one doesn't talk about very often. But starch is very prevalent in rice. I've mentioned the carbohydrates and relationship with root vegetables, the yam and potatoes. Here, I want to focus on the rice, but that's the primary source of starch in our cuisine. And cuisine, which of course has a long history of providing an ample amount of rice, yeah, because what we want to do is have sufficient energy to get us through the day. Yeah, yep, I get it. The problem is the overconsumption of rice, overconsumption, therefore, of starch, which is the problem. Starch, again, is broken down in the bodies and stored in the anticipation of famine or a rainy day when food would not be accessible. The problem, particularly Africans and Asians who live here in the West, but certainly in part of Africa and parts of Asia, it is an enormous problem, with the consequence that the starch becomes a burden to your bodies. I ask you no more than a fistful of rice, no more than a fistful of rice is necessary, not these large bowls which I've seen. And the last example is what we do to our children in particular at parties, birthdays, or other events, to give them these sweet foods, which are usually laden with starch. And you see those fairy cakes, those pretty little foods, laden with sugar and salt and starch, bad for our children. They develop those habits they take into their adult lives, and yes, it is bad for them. And I know, if you're from West Africa, I hear you on the jollof rice. I hear the Nigerians, I hear the Ghanaians in particular. They're shouting, oh no, I hear you from the Caribbean, particularly from Jamaica, the rice and peas. I hear you. We're not saying you stop eating the rice. You moderate how much you eat per sitting. That's the problem. It's the overconsumption which is the problem. It's the overconsumption. And being controlling is important. Being able to control how much you eat is an important discipline we all must acquire. Even still myself. And what you see on screen is an example of the impact of the overindulgence. Yeah, in the sugar and the salts, the fats, the carbohydrates, yeah, and the starch. There you go. You see on screen a man and a woman with bloated shoulders, bloated chest, bloated abdomen. You see the abdomens, bloated thighs, and of course, bloated buttocks or bottoms in polite company. Yeah, that is the direct causal impact of the overconsumption of these sugar, salts, fat, carbohydrates, and starch. Yeah, overconsumption. This is the direct causal link. And we together can do something about this. I say again, we together can do something about it because we don't want our community to be laden with diseases and conditions which are a direct result of our lifestyle. Action that we take both consciously and unconsciously. All nutritionists, all the medical experts will tell you what we should eat is far more raw fruits and vegetables. So what you see on screen are good examples. You see tomatoes, you see grapes, you see noriega, you see tomatoes, you see oranges, you see melons, yeah? You see the lettuce, you see the cabbages, yeah? You see the pumpkin seeds and the Brussels sprout, oh yeah. You see the onions, yeah? You see the beautiful food, yeah? You see the lemons, you see the cabbages, yeah? You see the corn. This is what our bodies crave for. Our bodies can build itself, renew itself with foods such as this. Yeah, this is what our bodies crave for. Yeah, this is what it's for. You see the cucumber in other places. Yeah, you see the pears, you see the melons. Yeah, you see the mangoes, you see the almond nuts. Yeah, you see the broad range of natural food, the oranges and the corn. Yeah, you see the tomatoes, the cherries, beautiful food. You see the avocados that really get excited. This is what our bodies truly crave for. Gives your body what it requires. But of course, let you be aware that we are more than 70% water. It's important to consume the right amount of water each day. You properly hydrated. And of course, the foods I just demonstrated all contain ample amounts of water, but usually we need a topping up between 2 to 3 liters of water per day is what on average we need. It may vary depending on your height and your mass. Yeah. Nevertheless, water is life. Yeah? Don't overdo it. Water is life. You see a young man drinking his water, you see a young lady smiling because she's being rehydrated. Yeah, that is what we need. Water is life. Yeah, between 2 to 3 liters of water is ideal. But none of this matters in any which way you may consider unless you exercise. Exercise is vital to the human condition, to our physiology, to our brains, to our bodies. This is what our bodies absolutely require. You must exercise, absolutely critical. See the young lady with her weight, she's pumping with those weights, holding her weight in her hand and just pumping her body. See the mature gentleman with his headphones in and he's running, he's smiling. He can feel the positive impact it's having on his body. See a young lady running up and down those stairs, I can assure you, that's good exercise. See a young man with his muscles, he's doing his press up. This is what our bodies absolutely require. 10, 15, 20 minutes a day of exercise is a vital part of who we are as human beings. This is vital. You must, and I implore you to exercise each day. Work is not exercise. In other words, when you go into your paid work, that is not exercise. This is exercise, where you take deliberate action to engage your body. So it stretches and it pulls, it expands and it contracts. This is what our bodies absolutely require. These messages pound into significance unless you also complement them and take care of your mental and spiritual health. Okay? If in doubt with regard to your mental health, I urge you to seek out professional help. And if you're not able to seek out professional help, speak to whoever you most trust, you most respect, and let that person guide you as to where you can obtain that professional help. I'm convinced that if you have someone you trust and who respects you, that person will ensure that you're obtaining the support that you require. And lastly, we are, of course, a spiritual people. Speak to your spiritual advisor to ensure you have good spiritual connections. We are a spiritual people. It is vital that you take care of your spiritual health. And those are the messages, key messages, health-related messages, lifestyle messages I wanted to communicate with you today. Because ultimately, we must translate our words into action so that we can benefit you, your family, your communities. Oh yeah, I commend these messages to you. What I also got to commend is that I'm encountering members of the community, both in London, across Britain and beyond, who are coming together in common aim and common purpose. I want to give again a big shout out to the Countdown organisation here in London. These are Africans from right across the continent, from Zimbabwe, from Sierra Leone, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Jamaica to Tanzania, to Ethiopia. These are people who have come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding, working together. We can collectively solve problems for ourselves. Okay? But it does require that maturity. Yep. Understanding the only way forward is not just to stick to your immediate family and exercise with them, but to exercise with the wider community, because the wider community can offer advice and guidance that often is not available within your immediate family. And this enables you to transcend both religious, cultural, so-called barriers. This allows you to work together in common aim and common purpose. What I'm going to do is play a very short video of a group of Africans from right across the continent, both in the continent, the Caribbean, and here in Europe, who've come together in common aim and common purpose. Just admire them, just look at them, observe them working together, exercising together. You see quite a number of rather large people there. They recognize together we can make the difference. Together we can make the difference. Let me play this video for you.
Cheese. Famous. Hello. You get one life on leave. Me self get one life on leave. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time? Palava no dey finish, time me no dey wait nobody. Now why I dey try for always get am nice every day and night? This one way we all friend we safe, not nobody own. You want to eat what you want, we go down you belly nine you young. And the balance where you go die left na all the money on. So why for the pity you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy am. If you see finance where you collect bill am oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep am. Want them oh. The food where you feel for eat na for eat am. That fine lapa where you let na for buy am. And tie am oh. And if you baby love you back love am. But if you love them all now you na for left am. Want them more. Cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life tear all. I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass you yourself. All man they fed for himself oh. Now why I know they allowed with you other man they pan take the peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no make nobody take the peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no. Every day As you dey hustle, dey work for the pay. The leg na buckle on a small you dey catch. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No money make motor man and bother. As long as you get waiting, you dey eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all fend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat what you want, we go down your belly, now you young. Get the balance where you go die left, now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it, deal 'em. Oh. You meet top woman where you let piano, and if you let the man na for keep 'em. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine la power where you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em more. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. Want them more. Cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life to your own. A fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass you yourself. All man they fed for himself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they can't take me peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no
Yes. You know, Africans come together from right across the continent, living here in London, come across right across the continent, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their religious affiliation, regardless of their social class, come together in common aim and common purpose, taking care of their health. Can you imagine they're pooling their financial resources to hire the facilities so they can exercise together, recognizing if they were able to transform their lifestyle, their children were better off as well. So you notice even children were there observing, indeed participating in the exercise session. We're from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Jamaica to Tanzania, from Ghana to Zimbabwe, from Zimbabwe to Grenada in the Caribbean, or from the United States of America, coming together, common aim and common purpose. That is the future. Yeah, that is the future. The future is whatever we envisage. Yeah, whatever we envisage. I respect them no end. I have to tell you, absolutely fantastic people, and I have my 1,000,000% support. 1,000,000% support. And in saying all this, there is a reason why I do this transmission, because it is intended both to inform and empower. Okay. And some of you will be aware that we get out on a number of important platforms. I just want to give you a quick flavour of the platforms we go out simultaneously at each of these transmissions. Let me turn off that. There you go. Now, so we currently go out, just for those of you who do not know, via YouTube, live and direct, every Saturday morning, and of course, the Motivator Show. Live and direct also via Facebook, under the Motivator Show. Again, live and direct via Mixcloud under the Motivator Show. Of course, live and direct now via Instagram under the Motivator Show. And of course, excerpts go out via TikTok, again under the Motivator Show. So we are truly multi-platform. And by this time next month, there'll be additional platforms that this show will equally be transmitted. I'm pleased that we've hit more than 100,000 regular listeners and viewers across the platform, and growing. So I thank you for that support. Clearly, the messages are resonating with you, and I'm really pleased that is so. So thank you for your ongoing and continued support. And remember, spread the word. Spread the word. I also want to give a big shout out again to the Countdown organization. And if you want to contact them, you are here in London, particularly you in South London, and you want to participate in the Africans come together for common aim and common purpose. In other words, to take care of their physical health. Please come and join them. They're every Monday and Friday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And they're at number 1 Bodley Way in Woolworth in London. And that's postcode S for sugar, E17, 1F for Freddy, N for Nkrumah. There you go. Or you can contact them by email on countdown0405@gmail.com, or you can phone the Inspired Ishmael on 07960 803 588. I commend the Countdown organization to you. I commend them to you. And I just want to give a quick shout out before I move to the main theme for today's show. I want to give a recognition to that inspired entrepreneur, and that's Dr. Carlton Brown. Okay? Dr. Carlton Brown is an example of what it means for genuine collective working. You recall when we had the African Cooperative Union, I'll get into them in a second, but let's focus on Dr. Carlton Brown. He's organised a series of master classes intended to support those who are in business and want to go up the next rung of their ladder, who want to expand, want to develop their businesses, but lack the know-how, the experience, the skills at the moment. For £49, I say this with some almost incredulity. Yeah, he's got the big multinationals supporting the Entrepreneurs Conference Business Masterclass sessions. Okay, and there'll be a masterclass sessions in the following cities across Britain. On the 10th of April, there'll be a masterclass in Manchester. On the 18th of April, a masterclass in Birmingham. On the 19th of April, a masterclass in Bristol. On the 3rd of May, their masterclass in London. If you go to Eventbrite, you can obtain your tickets. Okay, and that is the Entrepreneurs Conference Business Masterclass for 2024. And I can assure you, for £49, that's an incredibly low price, but the quality of the advice you'll be given, the guidance you'll be provided, okay, from top entrepreneurs, business people from the community and outside the community, devoted to your development, your empowerment, yeah, your improving your proficiency as a business person. I can assure you that is incredible value for money. And I'm taking business people from here in my bar of Southwark here in London to this masterclass. It's an opportunity that one should not pass up. Okay, there you are. But if you want more, simply go to Eventbrite. All righty. What I'm now going to do, I'm now going to turn to the main theme for today's show. Today's show continues a theme that I've continued for some time now. And I know for some of you, this would be, well, you always talk about this particular country. Yes, I'm going to talk about Nigeria. Yeah, an incredibly important country for all Africans, wherever you are. Okay, wherever you are, an incredibly important country, a country that we need collectively to support so it is successful. Yeah, amongst the largest and most populous country across the continent of Africa, an incredibly important country that must succeed economically. It must overcome the social ills. It must develop an inclusive narrative that allows the people to live in peace so they can all achieve prosperity. The current trajectory is clearly not one that will produce peace and prosperity for our children and our children's children. And for that reason, I give light to Nigeria. It's important. Okay? It's an incredible economy, 5th largest oil producer in the world. In other words, Nigeria is producing billions and billions and billions of dollars. Okay? Every Nigerian should have access to clean water. good sanitary facilities. In other words, you should all have toilets and it should be disposed of appropriately. Yeah, access to reliable electricity and gas, have good schools, good healthcare, good hospitals, which are free at the point of use. In other words, you pay for it through your taxes. There's so much that Nigeria should have going for it. It does, but only in limited form. In limited form. But yet a country of such abundant wealth. Yeah. It's a complex country with many people, but African people are remarkably mature people. It is that maturity and our creative abilities, our genius that needs to come to the fore so we can find solutions to the issues that affect Nigeria. Okay. This is not to say that the other countries across the continent are not important. You know, I hear the Ghanaian speaking, I hear the Ethiopian speaking, I hear Zimbabwean speaking, South African speaking. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. But this country, Nigeria, is an important country for all of our sake, not just for Nigeria. Nigeria needs to succeed for all of our sake. And for that reason, and I'm not Nigerian, but for that reason alone, we need to give focus and give light to how we can help Nigerians to find the solutions to its social challenges. So with this in mind, as you know, one of my most respected, most regular visitor here is Ndidi Ichiwa. Okay, a remarkable woman, a remarkable journalist, and her writings I've quoted on many occasions for good reasons. Okay, for good reason. But she is also a member of the Igbo people. Okay, the Igbo people are quite interesting because they present some interesting challenges for Nigeria. Okay, the Biafran War comes to mind, and we will touch on this in my interview shortly. I give light to the Igbo people in particular, okay, because they are, well, particularly affected by the trials and tribulations, the ills of that impact on Nigeria. Okay, but of course, I'm conscious of the Yoruba, I'm conscious of the Hausa, I'm conscious of the Fulani people that make up those big communities, the big tribal groups that make up that country. Okay, and we'll interview and speak to each one, representative of each one of those big groupings. It's important to communicate, it's important to talk, it's important to have inclusive discourse, yeah, so that we together can find solutions. Okay, I do this because if we as a people, regardless where we are in the world, are to succeed, we need Nigeria to succeed. An economic powerhouse for now and into the future. An economic powerhouse. We need Nigeria to succeed. Whatever format or configurations Nigerians settle on, whatever it takes, we've got to find that solution. And with this in mind, I want to bring forward a guest, someone who had on the show previously, okay, or someone who I believe offers an insight into the social dynamics within Nigeria and holds senior positions amongst particularly the Igbo people, but is respected nationally and internationally. Someone who can offer insights, and we all need to pay attention because the issues affecting Nigeria is issues that are affecting Black people, African people here in London, the Caribbean, the Americas. It's all interconnected. But I believe that we have the genius, we have the ability to find all solutions. Some of those solutions may not be elegant, may not be what we want. Okay, being a Pan-Africanist, you know, I'm a realist. But whatever is right for Nigerians, I will go along with. If it brings peace and prosperity, I'll go along with it. I'll go along with it. So I'm going to bring in my guest. First of all, let's see if we can bring my guest into the studio without any further ado. Let's see if it works. Oh, let's see if it works. It was here. I believe I have the great man. Can you hear us all right?
Ibu Cancer.
You
How are
can.
you?
Oh, wonderful. I am well. How are you? How are you?
Okay, well.
Good.
Greetings to you and the audience.
Thank you so much. And you're looking well. You're looking younger than last time you were here.
I don't
What
know
do you do?
about
What's your secret? Tell us. What is your secret? Come on.
that. The Lord is able.
You're quite right. You're quite right. You're quite right. And that, of course, is a subject we'll get onto in a moment in our interview. I'm going to ask you, please, just to introduce yourself, just say a little bit about yourself for the audience. I know you quite well, and I hold you in high esteem. Please, just introduce yourself to my audience.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to share some knowledge about a very important part of the world, which is currently called Nigeria, made up of millions of people, which has a significant part for particularly the black people on this planet. I wish I could be telling you how wonderful the country is. I'll be disingenuous and not telling the truth. My name is Justice Rukachi Lois. I'm a medical professional. I train in trauma and orthopedic. I'm also a survivor of the BIAFRA Nigerian War as a child. So having come to this country, I grabbed the opportunity given to me by God's grace and was able to qualify as a doctor. But the social ills and the background also made me question what sort of a person I am, because I went to Nigeria to see what I can offer it as a medical student to see what my options are. It was there that I became born again Christian, because if you like, if you're going to change anything, you have to begin by changing yourself.
Yes.
And that is the journey I've made. So, having survived the war, I've come to Britain, adapted, trying to see what we can do to enhance the lives of those at home. I realized there is not just a case of one individual or a group of individuals trying to improve the well-being of their fellow citizens, if you like, but there's an enormous obstacle in the path. Even though they've been through a war, it appears that no lesson was learned from that war. So, having been born again, it meant that I have to assess my own, contribution on what I can and cannot do. And as we drifted, or as Nigeria drifted from many military coup after military coup, we find ourselves in a situation where an experimental democracy was instituted back. But it hasn't worked, to be honest.
Can I just stop you there? Let me
Yeah.
stop you there, because you are right. And that's what I want to focus on for today's show. I'm going to ask you, please, to raise your voice. Okay, raise your voice so you can project it, but just for this. So you are a member of the really important organization from BIAFRA. It's called the Indigenous People of Biafra Movement. Can you just tell us, in terms of the history of that organisation, just give us a quick 30-second history of the organisation? I then want to just talk about the future. Just give us a quick history. Why does it exist?
Indeed. So, as I was alluding to, was that because Nigeria has not really worked, and it was, I think, Chinua Achebe who wrote a book, The Trouble with Nigeria, because of the enthronement of mediocrity, it became necessary for people to start speaking out about what is going on. In the process, it became necessary to educate the people, just as people in the diaspora want to know what's going on. So the education became an important part of letting the whole world know that Nigeria could be better, but If they doesn't want it to be better, then people who made up Nigeria, the constituent parts, should be given the opportunity to go their separate ways. But perhaps you can't develop at the same rate, then you develop at an individual rate, particularly to minimize loss of you know lives and bloodshed that's going on at an industrial scale, in spite of the genocide that occurred. So I found myself as a vehicle to convey this important information was initiated by Mr. We call Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who helped to form the Indigenous People of Biafra, we call IPOB for short, is, if you like, a worldwide movement of people from that part of the world in Nigeria, but formerly eastern part of Nigeria, or indeed wherever you have people of Biafran origin. Now, in that process, of course, you come against the obstacle. It's like truth goes through three phases. First of all, when you speak the truth, there are those who laugh at you. And then when they realize what you're saying makes sense, they will oppose you. And then the third phase is that, oh, yes, you were right all along. So there are three phases. The phase we're at the moment is that severe opposition and killing of people who are voicing, opinions that things could be better, not just for Nigeria, but any component part of Nigeria. So IPOB is trying to make the world know the injustices going on in the part of that country called Nigeria, which is affecting a vast majority of people and having an impact that no part of Nigeria is actually safe because of the way it's being run. So
A question here, if I may, if I question, because you said on a number of occasions that people are dying on an industrial scale.
yes.
Just give us some idea of the figures, either daily, weekly, or monthly figures.
Okay. As I speak to you now,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who are being killed or
Oh,
imprisoned in the country called Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
It started way back when Britain took over the colony. It was actually born out of the blood of innocents. The British went and forced their way and conquered what they thought was territories. It was all for grabs following Berlin Conference.
Yes.
Now, the problem is really protracted in that when Nigeria was formed, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form a country. It was man-made. Most countries are formed organically, but Nigeria was man-made, and there's a date it was made, and therefore there's an expiry date. Unfortunately, it could have worked, but it hasn't worked. So, in order to answer your question, back in when Nigeria was being ruled by Britain, back in 1945, there were some killings, again, people of the Eastern origin, in a place called Jos. When there was a strike in Nigeria, they blamed the Igbos and killed them. In 1953, there was another set of killing, this time in Kano, because the Northerners who came to Ibadan, which is a western part of Nigeria, deemed that they were insulted. So they turned on the Igbos who happened to live in their country and killed them.
Sorry, I didn't understand. When you say insulted, what do you mean by
Insulted, right? They said basically the Northerners were dragging their feet about having Nigeria become an independent nation. They said they were not ready. And they saw people were jeering them in Ibadan. Ibadan is the western part of Nigeria. But the people they turned on in the north were Igbos.
I see.
Now, then the process continued. So in 1966, there was industrial scale killing following a coup in Nigeria. Again, the Igbos were blamed for the coup and turned on, so that over 30 to 50,000 people were killed.
Oh, wow.
Up to 2 million returned from various parts of the country, which wasn't safe, to the eastern part of the country, 2 million. So now there was a need to try and rehabilitate them and find a way forward. This discussion failed in Ghana in a Aburi conference, and then eventually led to Biafra being declared as a means of security and safety for their people. But Nigeria said you can't do that. Biafra is part of Nigeria, therefore they invaded and tried to wipe the Biafrans out of the face of the earth. So that resulted in 3.5 to 5 million people who died, majority of which are children starving to death. At one stage, they would say about 10,000 children were dying on a daily basis
Children were dying on that scale.
from starvation. There's no other conflict on the planet have generated that amount of children dying innocently. The war ended because Biafrans were defeated. They did fight, and countries recognized them. But we thought that would be a nice history to tell the children. But they banned the history from the school books, and insisted on carrying on systematically dismantling anything to do with Biafra. They changed the name from the map, a cartographic vandalism. They removed the name of Biafra from the map, which has been there since 1500s, and insisted that anything to do with Biafra is a disservice to Nigeria, and they shoved the facts under the carpet. If they improved the lives of the Biafrans, that would have been no problem. Would have just buried it as history. But they carried on marginalizing, systematically destroying the properties, they systematically destroying the worth. So Biafrans find themselves escaped from Nigeria. Majority of them, some of them actually went to various countries. So now, but the killing continued. Till today, they're still being killed. Their property is destroyed wherever parts of Nigeria. Whenever there's a slightly disturbance, if they vote and they say you should go back to your country to vote, but the country is theirs. So there's ongoing systematic, not just marginalization, but suppression and oppression. So then the voice of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu decided to say, look, there's going to be a better way. This is not right. So when he spoke to the hearts of millions of Biafrans that you can't go on being killed for no just reason. That let's have a peaceful way of stopping this. And that peaceful way is to find a way to have a vote, a resolution, if you like, a referendum to see whether this forced union where various ethnic groups are supposed to come together is worth carrying on, or whether we should separate peacefully rather than in pieces. And that is really where the problem is. When he speaks about it, lots of people listened and they came out in support. So Biafrans all over the country, there's up to 120 countries of the world, they listened to him. And of course, those in Nigeria themselves. So we have therefore a scenario whereby the ongoing killing has, if you like, propelled the struggle to be reawakened. It's like a wound that would not heal. Biafra is the longest running genocide on this planet. The history has, people have not healed, they're not recovered from the genocide, you carry on killing them. So they ask themselves, is it worth therefore staying in the same country that doesn't want you to stay alive? They want your land.
If I may then, let me interrupt you just there, if I may, because there's a lot you've said there, and I just want to make sure it's understood by the audience. Because there are a number of points you've raised. First of all, the level of killing, which you say is continuing until today.
Yes.
On an industrial scale. And I know many Nigerians. In fact, immediately after this transmission, I'll be going amongst Nigerians, many of them. They don't talk about it, of course, what is happening in their country. But I'm also conscious that Biafra has a number of key organizations. So I understand your own organization, IPOB. But I'm also aware of the organization that is led by, I believe, Tony Nandi, of the Lower Niger Congress. Okay. What is the difference between yourself and them? What is the difference between you, if any?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Lower Niger Congress.
Mhm.
They, of course, recognize that Nigeria is not working,
Okay.
and they want to find a way, peaceful, again, a peaceful way of resolving the problem
Mhm.
via referendum. But they want to incorporate all the ethnic groups, the ethnic nations, meaning people of Biafran origin, which they call the Lower Niger, people of the Dudua, the western region, the Yoruba tribe, and people of the Middle Belt, which is, if you like, Middle Belt of Nigeria, northern Nigeria, and the Sharia North, the far north of Nigeria. So you already begin to appreciate that at least four different nations, and they want them all to exercise their right of self-determination, which is enshrined.
I am not yet over the phone line caller. Do you mind just holding back so that I can complete this phone of you? Was that okay?
I'm so sorry, you're a bit your voice is a bit digital. It's crackling.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that any better? I'll go with that in a moment.
Can you
That's right, yes.
can you still hear me?
We can hear you very well. Yes, we can.
Okay. So the Lower Niger, led by Tony Nadi, is of the opinion, for little I know of it, I can't really speak for them, is that they would like a referendum where all the ethnic nations agree or disagree whether to continue in that union. They should be given a chance to change what binds them together at the moment, which is the constitution that was erroneously put on them by the military government
Yes.
when they took over and designed the constitution. They said we, the people, without consulting the people. So they imposed, if you like, a constitution that is unworkable. So I think that's what little I know, but of course you need to get him to explain more. But I'm focusing on my corner where they have industrial scale killing, genocide, subjugation, marginalization, and it's still ongoing. And we're hoping that one day there'll be a referendum, again peacefully, where people will decide whether to leave Nigeria or to continue. So a referendum means people will vote one man or one woman, one vote. And when the people decide they're going to leave Nigeria, then UN guarantees that they have an opportunity to exercise that self-determination and their right. So that's really all I can talk
I understand.
about
I
for that.
understand you. And you must forgive me for being a person on the outside looking in. You see two great organizations working with the same people, but they appear to have parallel aims and objectives. Is there merit in finding a union of intent, thereby setting out common aim and common purpose between yourselves and the Lower Niger Congress? Is there merit in that? I ask the question because that's the inevitable question, someone on the outside looking in, based upon the sheer scale of the killings that are underway. It does seem an appropriate question to ask. Is there merit in both organizations working together?
Yes, indeed. Supposing you have um, Nina, and they call themselves Ninas, and maybe I got it wrong, an IPOB,
Yes.
and other nationalities say to them, look, let's all sit down and decide whether or not the current status quo, the current constitution, is benefiting anybody. If there is a conference where we organize it
Mhm.
so that, and let's say is looked at from the outside, say United Nations or AU, and said, Nigeria, what do you people want?
Mhm.
Then there'll be a place to resolve things peacefully without it deteriorating any further. So I don't know for certain whether what you're saying, yes, let's join hands and solve the problem, because they want Nigeria constitution changed. We just want Biafra restored. We don't need a constitution whereby you cannot honor the current state. You cannot honor your law, let alone any new constitution. You cannot guarantee. There's something called a takir, because in the Muslim world, you can actually lie to your opponent and get away with it. Biafrans experienced it at Aburi Accord, where an agreement was made and signed. When they returned from Aburi, they changed their mind and reneged on it. So we don't see, I personally, I can speak for myself, can't see how a Nigerian constitution could be rewritten and honored. At the moment, there's no judicial, if you like, the legal, if you like, the courts does not honor the respect of the common man. So where do you go to for for someone to appease if the government goes against what they've written as a constitution? So it's best, therefore, to have a scenario whereby everybody have the right to determine their own progress and their own, if you like, constitution, which they agree to, and not have one forced on you, which can be turned against when the time comes.
Thank you, thank you. You're very clear. As you know, I've had. Oh, my voice is very low. I'm sorry. Okay. My voice is very high. Is that better? Is that better now? Is that better now? Okay. I've made an adjustment to my volume. There you are. There you are. There you go. I'll continue to project my voice as usual. It will get better. That is well. Thank you. Thank you. Can I ask you, and if I may, thank you very much. Thank you for that sound check. If I may, Justin, just to take what you described forward, and it is important what you described. I know that from the other side will have commentary as well. Look, as you know, our ambitions on the outside is to achieve peace so that we can lead to prosperity. We can create an environment in which prosperity is possible. That I know is an ambition for all Nigerians, all the people that make up the country we now call Nigeria. In fact, right across the motherland, the continent, that is an ambition. That is an ambition. It's how to get there. Just taking what you described just now, I wanted to just tease out with you your own leader, remarkable personality. I've spent most of last night, I've had maybe an hour or so sleep, listening to his recordings. Yeah? A remarkable leader, but he's currently incarcerated for reasons I just do not understand. Can you just give us very quickly, maybe spend a few minutes, just describe his life to date and give us some rationale as to why he is currently incarcerated in prison?
Okay, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a remarkable man,
Mhm.
and you only need to hear him speak the
Yes,
truth
yes.
without fear, courageous. And I think it was God who told Joshua, be courageous, but I'm with you. He has this ability to convey the problem to his people in a courageous way. He's not mincing his words. He's not going to molly make what's happening to his people. And so we all respect him because courage is contagious. You have to be able to speak truth to power when that power fails. The government, you govern people by people giving you the permission to govern them and not take on the role of governing people against their will. So he's, of course, in a position to drive our respect because you're dealing with, if you like, Biafrans. They don't take fools gladly and they don't suffer fools gladly. They are independent minded, if you like, call it Judeo-Christian, orientation, but at the village level, if you want to implement any rule, the British found that very, very difficult. You sound a gong and everybody comes out and say, what is the problem? Then you have to address the community and say, Queen Victoria wants you to pay them tax. So the first thing they say is that, who is Queen Victoria? And you have to explain all that to them. And if it doesn't suit them, they say, my friend, we have nothing to do with this. If it suits them, they come together. It's called Igwe. They come together united and carry on what they need to do. But interestingly, that particular scenario ends there. Whoever brings that information, when you finish, they send you to go and represent them. When you finish that representation, your duty is done. You're not going to carry on ruling them forever because it's a collective. Now, Nnamdi Kanu is that sort of unique individual who understands his people and is united them through a peaceful means, through radio, just talking to them and instructing them. Now, the people have also, in turn, responded because of their marginalization, because of the oppression. And now it's so remarkable that we found him kidnapped when he went back to Lagos, when he went back to Nigeria back in 2015, I believe, in October 2015. He was kidnapped, taken to Abuja by the Nigerian Secret Service.
Forgive me, he was kidnapped by the
Nigerian Secret Service.
Wow.
They took him and said he's committing treason. What is treason? He's broadcasting in Radio Biafra, telling people this is not right. What is happening to our people is wrong. So he was, hasten to add that he was born during the war. So if you like, his certificate will be a Biafran. So he doesn't have to say I'm a Nigerian. But he actually tried to work for Nigeria to help Nigeria become better. But that didn't work out. So he's also a British citizen. Imagine you're a British citizen, you've gone to a different country and you've been kidnapped and detained in prison. And what is the charge? Oh, you're broadcasting on the radio, talking the truth. So they spun his detention. So it takes so many years before they gave him a bail. And that bail said you're not allowed to talk to more than 10 people. You must have a Jewish rabbi to come and pay for you. You must pay 100 million. So stringent bail tariffs. So he was given the bail, and then he was supposed to come back to court to continue a trial, which God knows what for. And then that wasn't enough. They decided to send an army to his house to kill him. A military force went to and they killed 28 people, destroyed the place, and he managed to escape. Now, in Biafrans, or one of their languages says, only a tree will stand still if you say you're going to cut it down because the tree can't move. So they said he escaped, or he ran away from the bail. He jumped bail when he could have been killed, but he was alive. He escaped and ended up in a place like Israel. From there, he then was able to move around to other countries, because if you wanted to come back to court and you're willing to go and kill him, so you're not really trying him, you want to kill him. So therefore he escaped, and they said, we're looking for him. He's a now wanted man. So they tracked him down. We're now talking from 2017. So they tracked him down to Kenya more recently in June 2021, where they kidnapped him, extraordinarily renditioned him, and took him back to Nigeria after torture. And he's been there since till now. Have they had a trial? No. They keep postponing after postponing after postponing. What is the charge? Every single charge has been dropped, and he's been acquitted and freed by the Supreme Court themselves. And then the government detained him. So if you bring him to face a trial and the court says he's free to go, the government's still detaining him. So it's very, very unique, extraordinary situation. So we're now in a situation where all Biafrans are fed up. He's been detained now more than the war itself is having to suffer for Biafrans, which, remember, is 2.5 years they suffered in the war. But this person who's now representing, now becoming symbolic, is being made to stay in Nigerian, if you like, high security prison, the solitary confinement for over 2 years, going to 3. In June of this year, make it 3 years. Okay, so there's an extraordinary individual, but they know that Biafrans are getting very, very angry. The fact he's been held there. There's another group for the Yoruba, well, Sunday Uboho had almost a similar scenario. He's been freed. Shore has been freed, but he's the only one who's been held. Yet, all the killings, every single terrorism act in Nigeria, not a single person has been arrested because they're not from the Biafran land. None of them have been arrested. But this man who's speaking the truth and saying there's other ways to secure the security of people, not just Biafrans, but the Africa as a whole. They've arrested him and locked him up, and they're holding him literally incommunicado indefinitely, hoping that his health condition will deteriorate and he'll die in prison, God forbid. But the key thing is that the whole world needs to know about his plight and free him, because he is not somebody you should hold in perpetuity. He needs to be freed. He has a family, and what he's preaching is not something seditious. It's something to tell Nigerians there's another way. Let's have a referendum. If you want us to stay in one country, then treat us as human beings, not as second-class citizens, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Well, that's very clear. Again, having spoken to many Nigerians, they are apprehensive to discuss these matters. You understand? And it's the current situation as continues to breathe the feeling, an atmosphere of fear to speak out, fear to respond. So you are amongst many who are courageous and seek change for Nigeria. And I'm aware that this transmission will be observed by many Nigerians. I'm aware. If you had them in the room now, if you have the president, and I won't comment on the presidential elections, okay? I will not comment on that. Okay? But if you had the president, and if you had the governor of a governor from the northern states present today, what would you say to them? What would be your key message you want to communicate to them?
Well, I'll tell them that Nigeria is not working. It's a construct designed by colonialists. And it's possible that the way it's designed, we're called failure engineering, is designed to fail. And that is so sad for the black people throughout the whole world, because until Nigeria wakes up and takes its own mantle, that's why Nelson Mandela was so upset with Nigeria, because Nigeria could do better. Yeah, but they've chosen to go in a retrograde direction. They're dragging black people back down. So I would tell them that they're not representing their people. They're representing colonialists. Remember, blacks have suffered slavery. Okay, it hasn't touched them. The Chinese have similar situation, and they said the shame must end. The black people need to wake up and say the shame that the black people went through has to end. Nigeria has the power, it has the intellectual ability, it has the resources to do this, but they chose not to. So as the president of Nigeria, I urge you to rethink, rework this country, which was imposed on you. Okay, there was peace within individual nations. You had Benin Kingdom, you had Biafran Kingdom, He had Zamfara State. You have all those people. They weren't going around industrially killing each other on a daily basis. You don't need to decrease population of black people to please the whites. If I'm just going to get very upset now, you have to understand that the worth of a human being. Therefore, there's a need to sit down on a table and discuss the way forward. Do we all want to live in a country formed, man-made, imposed on us by Britain, or do we work as equal human beings? And if it proves that separating in a different units and therefore growing and interchanging ideas and therefore growing and accelerating our development in that means, then so be it. Czechoslovakia has divided. Yugoslavia has divided. Even Malaysia and Singapore. Yeah. So this is not rocket science. There's no nation where you have this, different clash of civilization forced to be in one country. You can have a Taliban-based ideology or Sharia law sitting in Surrey, and then also Judeo-Christian sitting in, if you like, in Coventry, and say, now you're one country. Yeah, you run this country to make it work. We have to respect why we are different, but there's room for improvement, because when you develop the North, it can feed the African country with enough grains, enough food as a basket, in a bread basket. Ukraine, even during the war, is sending food to Nigeria. Nigerians are starving. So it is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I would tell the leaders in front of me that they are running the country in the wrong way. They need to sit down and have high-powered, if you like, conference and say, which way forward? How do we run this country to benefit everybody, and therefore for African's sake and for black people throughout the whole planet? Okay.
A question here, if I may. First of all, just for the audience, if you want to communicate with the studio and you are on Facebook or YouTube, you can use the messenger and we will see your messages directly here in the studio. And it is interesting because I'm receiving messages on my other facility I've got here, and there is a message on the message board. It is interesting because the person who's written this note here is that it's noted that BIAFRA doesn't actually exist. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, well, I would not waste time with the ignorance. Biafra doesn't exist. Well, what happened in 67 to 70? There was a country called Biafra, recognized by Tanzania, Zambia, Ivory Coast, Gabon, and Haiti, and of course unofficially by other countries throughout the world. Biafrans starved to death because Nigeria thought they have a God-given right to massacre every single person. There's no town in Biafra that was left unscathed. Remember, there was killing before the war started that triggered Biafra. Biafra acts as a security for an injured people. Okay, so a security whereby if you cross this line, you are safe because the rest of Nigeria have rejected you. And the Igbo says, the person who is rejected by others cannot reject himself. See, if I say to me, Biafra doesn't exist, I say, wake up and smell the coffee. Biafra exists, even if not present at the moment, in the heart of every single person, like myself, who survived the war. So you don't need to talk rubbish. Just revise and reassess your situation, because Biafra existed before Britain even came to being. Biafra was there in the maps in the 1700s. So check it out. So Biafra is not something you made up. It's something that exists as an ancient kingdom. We're the only, if you like, ancient kingdom that didn't go around conquering other people, because we know the importance and the significance of worth of a human being. We say that a human being is mma nkendo, mma ndo. Now, with the pinnacle of creation, We understand that God is a creator and we value life. So if you say Biafra doesn't exist, tell me why millions were killed and starved to death. Okay, so I don't have I don't have time to talk rubbish.
Quite right, quite right. It is necessary, but I'm conscious of many Nigerians I've spoken to, the wide range of opinions, Okay? And it's interesting, I'm from the Caribbean, and, we have an interesting situation there. When I was a child, that the history books of the Caribbean, it's all about the British monarchs. You would not see an African person in the history books, not one that is proud and prosperous. You know, it is remarkable how many of your cousins in the Caribbean minds were warped and destroyed by the teaching of history. Okay, falsehood in short. Falsehood in short. So I completely understand and the sentiment to which you've communicated, and you've communicated with a calm, solid, very civilized manner, but we do not display the anger, which is what the others want you to display. Yeah, you do not display it. Yeah, you display the pride, the majesty, the intelligence, the awfulness, which is an African man who understands and knows who he is and what the future will hold for him. Okay, well done, well done. What I want to do now is spend just 5 minutes, so we can move to a close, on the future. Because clearly, in order for us to move forward, you need to continue to acquire these allegiances, these alliances. Okay? And I'm conscious that the leader, Nandu Kanu, is still being kept in incarceration by the Nigerian state. Okay. So they're clearly afraid. They are clearly afraid. Okay. How do we take the next step if the Nigerian state is being this hostile to a group of people who have demanded recognition? Yeah. What is the next step? Are you going to go to United Nations, for example, and seek the support of United Nations for your position, and to seek counsel the United Nations to act as an intermediary? Is that the next step?
Okay, the struggle for Biafra restoration, I'm going to use the word right, is not secession, because Biafra has existed before Britain forced it into the entity called Nigeria. So it's a restoration, not a secession.
Indeed.
So we are restoring an ancient kingdom with its modern challenges. So going forward, for peace to reign, you need to obviously release the leader who will be in a position to negotiate that peaceful transition. And that is Nnamdi Kanu, because of the work he has done to awaken the consciousness of Biafrans. Remember, Biafra was buried for 50 years.
Yes.
If you mentioned Biafra, you disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It was not mentioned in the record book, in the history books. They even changed the map from Bight of Biafra to Bight of Benin.
Yep, this is true.
Okay? The Bight of Biafra during slavery sent between 40 to 60% of people to the West Indies.
Yes.
Okay, so we know about Calabar in Jamaica, the Calabar High School. There's the Calabar port in the eastern part of Nigeria. So, and that was actually the capital where the British started before they moved to Lagos and then the rest of Nigeria. So Biafra does exist and has existed before in the ancient maps and so on. Now, going forward, there's a need for a dialogue with United Nations really involved. There, in the past, if you had a country, you're allowed to do whatever you like in that country. It's called territorial integrity. and then it down back to during the Biafra Nigerian War. Nigeria argued was this is Nigeria territorial integrity. We therefore do not want it to be carved up. But they carved away a part of Nigeria territorial integrity, which is Bakassi, and gave it to Cameroon. So they were fighting for territorial integrity when they've already dismantled it. So the territorial integrity in the past was a key thing which you're not allowed to change. But now the United Nations have a mandate where you cannot just sit back and allow if you like, a government to destroy a section of its people under the guise of territorial integrity. Okay, so that argument is no longer valid because you have to then hold the rulers of that country accountable. They can face genocide charges for destroying their own country, so or a section of their own country, which is what's been happening. So Nigeria need to wake up and realize they can't continue like this forever, indefinitely. So there's a need to change tact and come back to their senses and have a negotiated settlement. Biafrans are being killed. Remember, they picked up weapons to defend themselves in the past. We know that the killing will not go on indefinitely because the only way to react is not what we're doing at the moment, being peaceful, being peaceful, being peaceful. There might come a time when that peace is no longer available, we may retaliate. And when Biafrans pick up arms, they invented their own weapons, okay? When Biafrans pick up weapons, then there'll be chaos. What we're having so far is child play. But we don't want to go down that route. As Nnamdi Kanu has pointed out, there's no point fighting a war. We've already fought a war before. Truth is a more potent weapon than the bullet. And the truth of our existence, the truth is what we're going for, that we have the right on this planet to live as human beings, to pursue, if you like, the life, the property, for peace and pursuit of happiness, to allow us to actualize our highest potential in every field of endeavor. So that cannot be denied indefinitely. And that is what Biafra is all about.
Thank you. Thank you. In other words, peace so we all can share in prosperity. And those of you in the chat who suggest otherwise, I don't believe you're African. I don't believe you're African. Because that clearly runs and contrary to the interest, not only for Nigeria and Biafra, the Igbo people and others, it runs against the interest of the entire continent, the entire black world. It runs against that interest. I'm going to ask you, please, if I may, my honorary brother, that how can those who are moved by your testimony this morning contact the indigenous people of Nigeria or Biafra movement? How can they contact you? Is there an email address or website address that they are able to make contact and give support where they can?
Yes, indeed. First of all, we're talking about education. You can contact within each country, particularly in Europe, there are representatives of the IPOB. In fact, the way the organization is set up is that you have DOS, which is Directorate of State, running the affairs of Biafra. In the absence, in fact, Nnamdi Kanu has an incredible organization which is set up. It is bi-directional and hierarchical, and we call it command and control. In other words, every country has an IPOB representation. This IPOB can be contacted. In fact, you have Radio Biafra, which you can listen to. You have Biafra TV, which you can listen to. There are websites, for example, those in America. You have IPOB USA. You have more information than I can possibly talk in a show like this, which tells you an in-depth history about what's happened to Biafra. Okay, there are other avenues. Just Google, Biafra, for example, and you study and understand what's going on. So there are so many avenues In Europe, you have a representation. In Latin America, representation. Middle East, you have representation. In Asia, you have representations. In other words, every continent have a representation about IPOB. So we are a vast organization. And the interesting thing is that, in my humble opinion, this representation of IPOB by of the countries is just a drop in the ocean. When the true nature of Biafrans come together, I don't think any force on this planet will stop them being a country. It's just a matter of time. So we're just waiting for more people to understand the plight. And when Biafra move, the world will shake. So we're nearly at that point. Thank you.
Perfect. So they should use their search engine and enter either indigenous peoples of Biafra, and that should generate a link to a website or a commentary, articles, or references to Nnamdi Kanu, or indeed yourself. Will you be found on the website?
If you if
Spoken
you
so eloquently this
if
morning.
you if you Google my humble self, you might find my name, all the previous programs and radio broadcasts and so on.
Yes.
That will give you some insight, and of course you'll be able to contact us. Yeah, but it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about
I understand you. Don't you worry. Look. I discovered. I won't say this to the audience. I met this good man a little while ago, and I'd assumed that he was between 6 to 7 feet tall. And I'm always struck when I first met him that I'm taller than him. There is no way such a person, such a human being, I could be taller, but I'm actually taller than him. And that just goes to show the magnificent personality before us. I want to say thank you. You provided a useful introduction. This is only an introduction. We're going to have you back again. There are some other aspects of the politics and the diplomacy that I would have further discussion with you. And maybe the other organization which we've featured here, which involves which also seeks what appears to be parallel, if not the same outcome, but using slightly different methodologies. Okay, and if we were, I'm maybe a romantic, he says. Okay, maybe a romantic. Okay, if there were a mean by which there's an alignment of these strategies, you magnify the words of the people of Biafra. But that's me being a romantic, and we'll have further discussion. What is your closing words for the audience this morning? As I said, we will have you back again, but what is the key message you want the audience to take away from your testimony this morning? The key message.
the key message is there's been gross injustice to the people of Biafra, and it's really a century old and it's ongoing. It hasn't seemed to have stopped. Right at the apex of this problem is the need to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who is the leader. It's like in South Africa, you have Nelson Mandela. If you don't release him, you're just going round and round the houses. You need to release him so that we can have a moderation in how we go forward in bringing peace to that part of the world. It's so critical because we know how large the Nigeria continent in the country is and what impact it can have not just in Africa but in the rest of the world. For peace and stability, you need to release him so there'll be peace and there'll be prosperity. We can then have a dialogue to decide how best to go forward. Okay, so those are my closing remarks. Watch this space. Biafra is TEN, 10, the emerging nation. And no force on this earth can stop that because it's inbuilt. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. I want to thank you for being an outstanding guest this morning. We will have you back again. Thank you. You've shed light on an issue which has been a persistent thorn in the country we know is Nigeria. Okay. And I've said many, many times, the country I've featured most on this particular podcast, that we need to find peace so we can gain prosperity for all people, not only Nigeria, not only in West Africa, but right across the continent and beyond. Okay. We need inclusive narratives. We need actions that allows people to be themselves. I mean, there's mutual respect for your culture, your traditions. That what defines you. I just want to say to you, thank you for being an outstanding guest this morning and shining a light on an issue to which affects us all, even if we're not aware of it, affects us all. And I want to, and I want to, and I also want to say that for those who have passed, those who have been killed, we want to humbly pray that their souls are in a place that's safe and sound. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
really, I'm really honored. Thank you for inviting me
Thank you.
and for all the audience listening. I think maybe next time there might be some interactivity where we answer some questions, which will help.
I will do that next time. You now set the scene. You now set the scene. Not long, maybe in a month's time. Okay, maybe in a month's time. But I'm just conscious, based upon the impact I've seen so far, that we want to do this in a month's time. I want to make sure that those who pose questions are all respectful. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good day. Good day.
Good day. God bless.
And I can see I've got a call on the line. I've not officially opened the line, the phone calls, but I'm not going to take the phone calls today. It was important to hear this great man speak uninterrupted. Uninterrupted. There will be an occasion in a month or so's time. He'll return, and that will be a far more interactive show. But today was a moment to listen, to hear, to absorb, to learn. Okay. Today was an important day to better understand what it is to be an Igbo, what it is to be a member of a person from Biafra, and what it is to have suffered for so long. Yeah, what it is to have suffered for so long. And we've heard some quite horrifying testaments that even today, the people of Biafra are being killed on an industrial scale. That is wrong. I'm going to say that is wrong. Anyway, let me pause there. I want to thank him, an outstanding human being, Having heard all this, I wish to encourage you, the audience, to do some of your own studies. I want you to study. I want you to better understand. This is the knowledge, this is the history that colonialism was designed to prevent you from acquiring. This knowledge is what colonialism prevents you from acquiring. This understanding, called pragmatic, common sense approach, says you need to talk because you want peace so we can create wealth for you, the community, and for Africa. Yeah. In order to do that, you must have peace. And those who do not have an interest in Africa and African affairs want to promote tension, contention between the different peoples that make up that great continent. That's what they want. They want you to argue over the slightest little thing. That's what they want. And those of you who are facilitating that narrative, and pretending that a group of people run into millions, well, do not exist, and therefore you could treat them as if they're not human beings. Oh my gosh. There are many examples across the world in history that says that is a poor tactic. It can only lead to disaster. Yeah. And I see in the chat someone says that it no longer exists, but yet you just seen someone who very much exists. Yeah, oh gosh. I say to you, my dear friend, please open your eyes. Go to Biafra land. Speak to the people. Hear their testimony firsthand. And once you've heard their testimony, and assuming you are a human being, you will be moved sufficiently to argue we as a peoples can do better. And we most certainly can. We can. So remember, this is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. I've very little to say now, but he has truly moved me. I've been moved by him. So what I'm going to do, I want to play for you all the intro video. I want you to pay attention to its contents. And I want you to share the link to this show with your family and friends and let the message be heard. Because together we all can and must make the difference. So I'm going to close earlier today than usual, but I'm going to let you listen to the intro video. I want you to hear. So the persons in the chat who are denying what is clearly a fact, I want you to listen, but I urge you to speak to your fellow Nigerians. And to the next strong, I remain the Motivator, where we translate words into action, because success is ours for the taking.
The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
Igbo people of Biafra, unity and faith, peace and progress.
We're another people of different culture, idea and heritage, bias and oppressive. I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wari, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Eti, Uyu, Olu, Aba, Owori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
From now till forever, let the whole wide world know.
The indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The indigenous people of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination. The indigenous people Biafra movement, it's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old Eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.
Let the tears of our mothers who lost their children be heard. Let the blood of our
Mazi Nyande Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. He says, "My love, passion and agitation for freedom for the people of Biafra and the other African nations must be achieved. We shall be free from this mental and colonial enslavement. They will kill us, they will arrest us, they will intimidate us, but in the end, we shall win. My people shall be free, and Biafra shall come." The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. Press the like button and don't forget to leave a comment.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
We are also on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us there too.
With another people of different culture, ideal heritage, bias and oppressive.
The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.
There was a nation living in peace and unity.
Igbo people of Biafra, unity and faith, peace and progress.
With another people of different culture, ideal heritage, bias and oppressive. I see.
25 provinces of Biafra include Port Harcourt, Dagima, Wari, Anian, Entwe, Akwa, Enugu, Ete, Uyo, Olu, Aba, Awori, Azapa, Agbo, and many others.
From now till forever, let the whole wide world know.
The indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, is a self-determination movement based in the old eastern region of Nigeria. Its primary goal is to re-establish an independent state of Biafra, separate from the rest of Nigeria. The indigenous people of Biafra movement, the core belief centers on the marginalization and oppression of the old eastern region people within the Nigerian state. They assert that this marginalized status necessitates the right to self-determination.
fought them off on the track. Thought the bloodshed's done. Then it came a king. 216 and the massacre.
For the indigenous people Biafra movement, it's worth noting that the historical factors, including the sense of marginalization, contributed to the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, during which the old eastern region sought to succeed from Nigeria and establish an independent state of Biafra. Biafra Remembrance Day, the 30th of May.